Feeling stuck or unfulfilled? Searching for more meaning in your work and life? Wondering what's next? You're not alone, and you're in the right place. This is Focus on Why, the podcast that turns reflection into action. I'm Amy Rowlandson, and each week I dive deep with guests who've chosen to live and work with purpose. Together we explore what drives them, shapes their decisions, and gives their life meaning. Through real stories and honest conversations, you'll discover how to gain clarity, make confident choices, and create a life that truly matters. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why. Do you understand the power of a focus on why in business? Are your people truly engaged and finding meaning in their work? I deliver practical, interactive workshops that boost engagement, fulfillment, well-being, and purpose, all key drivers of higher productivity and performance. If you're ready to close your purpose gaps, reach out via the link in the show notes today. Today on Focus on Why, I am joined by Ed Jordan. Ed, hello, how are you?
Very well, and you, Amy. Thanks for having me today.
Fantastic. So, what is it that you're focusing on right now, Ed?
Right, at the moment, I'm building a business. I launched it last year. It's called Walk in Winning Limited, and it is a training and coaching business and a speaking business. So the three tie nicely together. I'm new to the UK, about a year and a half living in England, and so my focus at the moment is really building a book of clients. I've got a couple of clients that keep me busy, but I need more. I need to grow my business, so that's what I'm focusing on at the moment.
So, being new to the UK, that's a new thing for you. But what about this training, coaching, speaking? Are they new as well?
No, not at all. I think the speaking piece, I suppose, has been from a life of singing in church, being on stage in front of people, going to drama school and learning my craft and the dynamization of space. As we learned in first year drama school, that'll be a familiar term to those of you out there who've studied such things. And a life in television, radio, media led to really loads of time in front of people on stage, in front of a camera. So very comfortable in that space. I did that for 25 years. And then I moved into financial services when we had children and started a family. I got a more conservative role and very, very lucky to have worked in banking for many years, where I trained as a coach. That's where the facilitation piece came in. And I studied as a coach while I was working at a bank in Africa. And I loved working with C-suite executives. I loved working with managers and entry-level staff across the board and learning the various methods and styles of coaching. So I mix it all together. And yeah, that's a bit of my story.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing is this broadcasting and performance element to your story. And now, sort of sitting back and being more of an observer, listener, that is very much the different side of, I guess, the camera. You're almost sort of taking a back seat now.
Yes, it's very tricky if you're a talkative person like me to, I suppose it's the ICF method of coaching where you really ask, don't tell is the premise of such a style. And I found that very tricky at first, but I do have to calm myself down, get into a zone, respect the space I'm going into with someone if it's that type of coaching session. Very often it's a mentor coaching session, which is a different thing. It's one listens, asks the right questions, incisive questions, etc. But then there is a time where perhaps one's own experience can come in, and then you jump into role of mentor and then back into a listening coach. So, yeah, but lovely skills to learn, Amy. It's been a wonderful journey to I suppose reverse what I'm good at, which is talking, and really focus on listening.
And when you say lovely skills to learn, what is it that you have taken from this process of becoming a coach mentor?
I think the ability to listen without interrupting. I was very, very lucky to meet Nancy Kline. She does these wonderful tours around the world. For those of you who don't know, Nancy's an American psychologist. I think she lives in Oxford. She wrote the most amazing book called Time to Think. And my coach at the time at the bank I was working at said, Nancy's going to be here. This would be a good investment to spend a day with her. So I did. And really, one of her strategies and beliefs is that interrupting someone is the rudest thing you can do because you block their creative thought. And so often we jump in, especially when we're excited, and to the detriment of the creative thought that was going to happen. So I learned a great deal from her and her methodology and teaching. So very lucky to have actually met her face to face.
Creative thought for you, I'm making an assumption here, but has been an integral part of your way of operating based on the story that you just shared in terms of your background. Have you ever had your creative thought blocked?
Yes. So for 25 years, I was a professional musician and a songwriter and a composer. And I had a method to writing songs and an approach. And 95% of the time, they came very, very quickly. I created a space, the right mood, the right environment to be creative with a germ of an idea or a lyric or a melody or whatever the case may be. And things flowed very, very quickly. When they didn't, I brought in a collaborator to help with lyrics, and then things carried on flowing. But every now and then, it's a horrible, horrible feeling. It's like a cold door, sort of big steel door being slammed in your face, and you feel stuck and frightened and as if the muse has left you. And it's a horrible, horrible feeling. The best thing to do when that happens is, of course, to stop, walk, get away, revisit, whatever the case may be. But yes, I think that would be, I suppose most people who are in any kind of creative field would say that the same thing. I do think that creativity is really interesting to chat about. So there's a wonderful book by John Cleese where he says that good creative people have the ability to wait right till the last minute and procrastinate until that very last minute before the deadline, because they're waiting for that spark to come. And I suppose you and I are both in the speaking space. That can be true, said of us sometimes, where you're waiting for that last slide. You think, hold on a second, I'm setting my presentation a week before. Well, what happens if I get a great idea from Amy? I'd love to put that in and maybe rearrange things, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, to answer your question, it does happen every now and then, and it's just given me a bit of a sick feeling in my stomach, a pang of fear, I think, where you think, oh dear, have I lost the gift? Have I lost that spark?
And that spark that you are focusing on, in essence, in your work, is that the key to walk in winning?
Yes, I think it is. And I think it's different for each and every single one of us. If we reflect back on our lives, those moments of just sheer joy, where we were at one with everything, where everything felt right. This is where I must be. This is what I should be doing. I suppose we chase that as creative people, or as coaches or speakers, or in business, or whatever the case may be. I certainly do that rush almost of excitement of, this is where I belong. I'm doing the right thing. This is fulfilling work. And again, that doesn't always happen. Life happens, and every now and then you're in an area where different kinds of approaches or work or methods are called for. But you asked me if that's the sort of well, it's one of the keys to walking in winning, I think, is to knowing yourself and what makes you you, because I think people can feel that. I certainly like working with people who are comfortable and not threatened and know who they are, because it's just a wonderful, inspirational environment to be in if you're collaborating, co-creating, whatever the right word is. But yeah, I find characters like that, what's the right word? Well, inspirational, but they don't have to be charismatic, but they can definitely be uplifting. And I'd like to be that kind of leader, that kind of coach, that kind of speaker.
So are you working with people who already know who they are, or are you helping them to identify that piece?
Most of my work at the moment is helping people find that piece of confidence they might have lost along the way. So a great deal of my work is online coaching at the moment, where I'm dealing with people who work in financial services, who are suddenly promoted or given an opportunity to train, teach, lead in front of others. And I'm a firm believer that all these skills, I keep saying it, presenting, standing in front of people, speaking, delivering a simple message that people can understand, all skills that can be learned with practice. And so I get a huge kick out of watching the people I'm working with go from being quite frightened and insecure in this kind of space to just getting over that hump of fear. And there's a spark that goes off in their eyes that think, hold on, I've got this. I can manage this, and I'm better than I was yesterday. And I just need to practice this a few more times. I'm going to be okay. So I do find the work incredibly fulfilling. And most of the work is my work at the moment is helping people get over that hump and find that initial spark again of what made them them.
And what makes you you, Ed?
I think I love what I do so much. I would do it for free. If I could do this kind of work, training, speaking, coaching until I drop, I would be the happiest man alive. And there's not an ounce in my bone of disingenuous speech there. What makes me me is my love of life. I get it. And sometimes I'm with people that don't. And sometimes my job, or the reason I'm put in front of such people, is to help them see a way through the mire and the darkness, and to perhaps unlock a missing piece that might just help them find themselves. And I think that's my job, is to be a light shiner and to shine the light brightly so that people can, those light bulbs go off and those eyes start sparkling, thinking, hold on, this is maybe a direction I could go in, or this is something that I could do, or something I haven't thought about before. I'm a product of coaching. So I'm very, very grateful to the people that came into my life at the most opportune moments, fortuitous moments, as you did, and lovely Vicky O'Farrell and the people that I met at the Professional Speaking Association in London. Just so timeous and perfect, just arrival times to say, hi, Ed, let's do something together. Do you fancy being on the podcast? Let's have a call, whatever the case may be. Very, very lucky to have met people along the way like you, Amy. Really, very lucky.
Well, thank you. It's mutual. This shining lights and shining brightly, for many who've come on the podcast, that has become their focus because of the darkness that they have perhaps experienced. Is that the case for you?
Yes, absolutely. I think I'm 56 years old, and if I look back at my life and do a sort of a timeline through the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, like many of us, I have wonderful highs and then terrible lows. And in my case, because I was in media and on television, there were highs happening at the same time as the lows were happening, but no one could see the lows. So I think everybody has had their graph almost looks like an ECG graph going up and down, up and down, up and down. And when you're in that darkness, it's when you look back on those dark periods, they look so small. It's 2 years here or 4 years there, or 6 months there, or another 2 years there as you look past and reflect. But when you're in it, it feels like it's never going to end. So I love the narrative coaching styles and the coaching styles I learned from Gestalt right through the ICF methods and everything I was trained in, because you can find a quiet time to think back, make some drawings and doodles about the pattern that your life's taken, and go, hold on a second, I got through this. I'm still alive. Isn't that amazing? And then I got through this, and I'm even stronger. And here's the best part. When you're in this terrible dark patch, whatever, 10, 15, 20 years ago, and you look back at it now, when you were in it, you really thought the world was going to end. When you look back now, you're almost grateful for it. You think, thank goodness that happened, because if I was still there, I'd be stuck. But it happened. I came through it. And in retrospect, it was a plus. But those horrible 3-4 years, whatever you went through at the time, it's sort of a dark patch, a bad patch. I think that's a wonderful thing about community, isn't it? Or an association like you and I belong to. That's how we met, is that it can be quite lonely when you're working for yourself as an entrepreneur, but it can perhaps be even lonely when you're in a huge corporate and putting a brave face on every single day and no one really knows what's going on inside. I think that's just the start of my talk, is about people's chutzpah being knocked out of them. And I can see that. And I want people to get that back. that drive that made them who they were in the first place. And we lose that along the way. I think our schooling system tries to knock it out of us, and perhaps society tries to knock it out of us. My message is, don't let them win.
Absolutely. Don't let them win. And you said you got through this, and your words being, I got through this. Was it on your own, or did you have help?
I had help. I had help. I had the most wonderful, wonderful coaches again, who put me in touch with a fantastic, I suppose, at one of my lowest ebbs, a fantastic psychologist, trainer, coach, who made me draw my life on a huge, big A3 piece of paper. And I remember doing a drawing and looking at it and thinking, oh my goodness, everything's completely out of kilter. And I'm so glad she got me to do that, because a visual representation of me was not what I thought. Suddenly seeing it on a page, it leapt out at me and got me to change my way of thinking and behaviors, etc. I'm also very blessed that I met the right person to partner with me for the last 20 years as a beloved wife and very, very dear life partner, I suppose is the right word, which is a journey together through all the ups and downs. She stood by me. We have a wonderful family together, and I wouldn't have been able to do it by myself. Absolutely not. No. And that's, I suppose, a message anyone listening is that that's a funny thing, with people the stigma around asking for help. But of course, one can never ask for help until one's ready to. And I was really ready to. And so I got the help I needed. But again, the coaches that came in and out of my life were hugely impactful. And I'll say it over and over again, I'm a product of the coaching system.
Yeah, likewise. It is an incredible space to be in. In terms of moments of joy, and you mentioned before about there are moments of just sheer joy. What constitutes for you sheer joy?
There's a moment of connection between the person on stage and the audience. An inexplicable, invisible line of connection that can move and inspire and bring unbridled joy. So as a little boy, my parents took me to the theater when I was about 7 or 8 years old to see Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat in Johannesburg. And I remember looking up at the lights and the dancing and the music and the energy in the theater and just feeling something. I just thought, oh my goodness, that's where I need to be, is on that stage. This is the greatest thing that I've ever experienced. And so to be in the audience and watching my favorite musicians or a new musician or a new play that I've never seen before take me on a journey that's right out of myself is wonderful. But equally so, to be on stage and then to hold a pause and just let your message land and then wait for another beat and then feel the room just shift a little bit as you move on to the next image or the next thought, whatever the case may be. That is just that they haven't invented anything. I don't think they can replace that. I just think that's just the communion between a performer and an audience, or speaker and audience, is really what I live for.
You've just taken me back to my own childhood and listening to Joseph, the most amazing musical. I mean, it really is phenomenal. And the songs that were in there, it just gets you right at your core. The holding the message and waiting, holding the pause and waiting for that message to land, that confidence between the space that you're creating, that connection with the audience, which has been a through line clearly in all of your work, a connection, a really strong connection with people. This time, this time to think, the pause, there's a huge amount of pausing in music as well, in breathing, in everything, in life, right? Tell me, when you take a pause, what is it that you're thinking? What's going on for you?
And I take a pause when I'm on stage, when I take a pause in
Yeah,
life.
when you're waiting for that message to land, what is it that you're in anticipation of?
I think what it shows is that one respects the space one's in and not to be frightened of the silence. So what's popped into my head now as I'm asking the question is, when I hold a pause, I'm giving thanks. I'm saying thank you. So I'll bring energy into a room and bring all my light and joy into a room. But there comes a time where you have to respect what people are going through. It can't just be a bombardment of ideas. And we slow it down so that everyone can process what they've just heard, digest it, think for themselves. And that holy, sacred space of silence and stage and audience is, I've been in the O2. I watched Nick Cave. I'd never seen Nick Cave perform in the O2. The O2 is huge, and you could have heard a pin drop. It was astounding. What an incredible, interesting, very bright, clever performer. Never seen anything like it. But that's sort of, I can still remember that moment. I mean, the whole audience was aghast, whatever it is, tens of thousands of people or whatever. It really quite a thing. To answer your question, in that moment, it's, I suppose I'm saying to myself, slow it down, thank you, and then go. There's a power that comes through that. If someone coughs or shouts or it doesn't matter, because you've offered everyone some time to think, time to digest, and a quiet space.
Ed, do you know your core values?
Well, I can narrow it down to one. There's a lovely exercise. So there is, for all the listeners, there's a wonderful exercise I use to get to my core values. And I recommend that everyone does this. So you Google list of values, and you will get in alphabetical order 480 values from A to Z. And you look at them and you circle about 40: family, passion, love, trust, integrity, and off you go. And then you leave it for a week. Come back again with your 40 and knock it down to 20. Leave it for a week. Come back again, get it down to 10, get it down to 5, get it down to 3. And I was quite shocked at what my core value, my one core value was. I got a bit of a fright when I looked at it on the page, but it's respect. And the more I think about this, it's about respect of self and respect of others. I hold that is in the highest order for me. Is number one is respecting others, respecting myself so I can respect others. That's the word that resonates the most with me. Of course, joy, trust, family, etc., all there. Quite a valuable exercise. I had a coach years ago who got me to do it, and we narrowed it down, and we were both quite shocked when that popped out. I didn't see that coming at all. But one has to be honest with oneself, and that's what I ended up with.
When I sit here and I make notes when I'm interviewing or having these conversations, I can't help but have a little corner piece of where I put the values that I think they are. And there you can see that I have respect. And I had it down as number 2 because it was there. But creativity, respect, gratitude, love, the vitality, the chutzpah, the time to think, the joy and connection.
Wonderful, Amy. Lovely.
Yeah. What's that? What does that mean to you? Just to sort of hear those back when I shared them.
They're affirming. Again, this podcast comes at exactly the right time. It's been a stressful week, like I'm sure many of your listeners have had, and just chatting to you now and reminding myself of why I'm here. I needed to hear that and a reminder. That's the thing. You see, we're all so busy with our phones that are so cleverly designed to grab all our attention all the time, and the news and family and friends and things to do on the weekends and everything. It all just consumes so much time. We forget what your core values are. And thank you for reminding me, because those are exactly them.
Oh, well, I mean, it is affirming and to be reminded of our compass, to understand what it is that's directing us. But linked to that is the purpose and the why. What does that mean for you when I talk about purpose and why?
these are terms that I've loved talking about. I've loved thinking about them ever since Simon Sinek's video in 2011, I think it was, so a long time ago, with his circles and the why, what, and how. And I found those exercises that he presented immensely valuable to work through as I was, I suppose, changing careers. I went from the arts, performing arts, TV, radio, music, which I loved, into a corporate system, which I love too. I loved working with people. I loved learning. I loved being with super bright actuaries and accountants. It was a whole different sort of world and environment. But trying to find my way with these two very juxtaposed, was that the right word? Very different careers juxtaposed together. I found these exercises very, very valuable to get to that. What's my internal driver? What are my external drivers? What do I do? How do I do it? And why? Why do I do it? And I've loved working through those. I really have.
Yeah, I hear you. So do you have a explicitly written purpose or why statement at all?
Yes. So my purpose, so I say my name first to sort of affirm who I am. So I would go, Dear Amy, my name is Ed Jordan, and my purpose is to bring joy and inspire hope, to shine my light so brightly that the darkness disappears completely. So I can refine that to just my purpose is I get up in the morning to bring joy and inspire hope.
And in terms of the why, the meaningful significance that you assign to that purpose?
Is I'm called to be the person that people will need now. That's the calling piece. So the adventure that I've had in my life and all the wonderful roads it's taken me down lead me to here, speaking to you. Why am I here? How did this happen? 5 seconds ago, I was playing in a nightclub in Johannesburg, and now I'm having a chat to you in England about helping people get their confidence back, focus on why they're here, what drives them, what the path might look like as we move into next year. This is all very exciting and important work. And what an honor and privilege to be doing it. Again, back to being hugely grateful, hugely grateful.
And the respect, how does that link in here?
The respect comes in from myself to show up for you as my very, very best self that I can possibly show up for you today. Be it a podcast or an onstage keynote or a virtual session. I'll respect myself enough to bring my very, very best self to you. No clutter. Just focus on you. And as I listen to my audience or the person I'm working with, that comes from the deepest place of respect, because your journey in coaching, we call it, as you know, peeling the onion, layers of the onion. We're going to get through 1 layer, 2 layers. We're never really going to get right down to that core, deepest place, unless years of work, perhaps months of work, whatever the case may be. But in every interaction, it's a privilege to be in a space with a fellow human being, walking a path, being an ear, a guide, a mentor, a friend, a listener, or just being quiet and holding a space for them. I respect that every single person I come into contact with may be going through the most terrible, terrible time. It's what I'm trying to teach my children as they interact with grown-ups that you don't know. So we respect as much as we possibly can those around us.
What does respect give you?
It gives me a sense of confidence. For example, this morning I really didn't feel like going to gym. I really didn't. But I popped on the old gym shorts because the tracksuit pants were in the washing machine. A bit chilly out here in Kent, and I whizzed down to the gym, went up and down the pool, and felt like $1 million. Suddenly, the fact that I'm taking care of my heart, my bones, my back, made me feel better about myself. Maybe feel like I'm respecting myself a bit more. The gift that I've been given, and I can give back to the world in a better state than if I just mooched around the house and not stretched and done some exercise. So that's a bit of a, I hope that's an example of respect today.
Yeah, I would just challenge a little bit. I know you said respect is your number one value. I've heard gratitude as your number one. Everything comes down to being grateful for being alive, for being able to live this life that you've chosen. And I hear the respect piece is huge, but gratitude is overriding in this conversation today.
Okay, well, that's the wonderful thing about your core values is, and I'm sure you do the same with people. You can change them as you go along, as you can your mission statement and purpose statement. These are not static things, which is wonderful, isn't it? I think I'm ready to move on to gratitude. I'm immensely. You have no idea how grateful I am to be standing up in a beautiful little study that's all cozy with a spaniel snoring in the background, chatting away to a new friend on a podcast. Unbelievable. Blessed beyond measure.
Yeah, look, this is just my perspective, Ed. I am not absolutely not saying that this is your highest value. What I am saying is this is what I'm hearing, and it is again my bias, my belief system, that all of the overlaid elements here. But the gratitude for the times, the gratitude for the fact that you had a day with Nancy Kline, the gratitude for the communities, the people that you get to work with, and the family that you have, the life partner that you've had, all of these experiences is just, it's all part of that vitality that you bring to the space.
I've thought about it a lot, about where it comes from. And I don't know if this makes any sense, but I think it's got something to do with the fact that, because quite often people will say, oh, you're very enthusiastic. And I go, well, that's such a beautiful word. Enthusios, that's the Greek. It means full of God. What a lovely thing to call someone, full of joy, enthusiastic. What a lovely, I'm enthusiastic. And uh, I think I do think about this often, is that, and where it comes from. I think as a little boy, I sang soprano in all the church services at school and at the local church and at the cathedrals and all that sort of thing it's an 8, 9, 10, 11-year old little boy. And we did weddings. I got paid for the weddings, a couple of rand, whatever, there's a couple of few pence. And I did the services, but I also did all the funerals. So from a very early age, I walked down the aisle and then stood in the front and sang away with coffins of dads, and then sometimes dads that had killed themselves, and sometimes car crashes where the mom and dad had been killed and the children were in the front row, and then sometimes families had all been killed together in a sort of family burial, and there was little me singing away and I suppose becoming numb almost to the grief all around me, and just thinking, we're all here, everybody. Let's crack on and get on with it. And when you're 9 or 8 or 7 years old, singing away doesn't really make sense, I suppose. But I think there's definitely I've always had a sense, not that this day might be my last, but that our time is finite. It really is. And especially when you do wonderful coaching exercises we spoke about beforehand, where you reflect and think, whoa, decades we've been through, and in the case of my wife, 2 decades together. It's huge. I mean, look what we've built, look what we've been through. And there's so much more to come, but it's limited. It's, suddenly you're 60, then you're 70, then you're 80. My dad's 90 now, and still rocking. I mentioned him in the keynote that you saw. Me, 90 years old and 3 times cancer survivor, strong and walking and believing, and the most amazing guy, incredible man. And I just, I think that sort of, that enthusiasm, that joy has been with me since I was a kid. The first time I heard pop music, wow, I loved it. Queen and Stevie Wonder and all the beautiful music from the 70s. I found it so invigorating, and I still do to this day. It's very interesting to me when I watch music doesn't have an effect on people. It's because it certainly affects me in that way and brings joy and light.
And that's what I take from the experience of the funerals for you, is that in those moments of darkness, you were shining the light with your voice. You were providing that joy, and it is a power that you had in that moment to be able to those who were grieving bring this beautiful lightness to shine that light in a space where it is dark. And you said you might have been numb to grief. I don't think you were. I think that you understood the role and you had the confidence to deliver the performance in that moment. And this is what's so beautiful is about that shining the light to help others, to bring them the capacity and the belief that there is a way forward, that there is another path, that they are still walking. And yeah, you do bring this, I call it effervescence, if that helps.
There we go. Yes, I do feel like a sparkly drink, Amy. Exactly.
Yes, right. Ed, this is a beautiful conversation, and I love the fact that we're finishing with the music of Stevie Wonder and various things. I love song. It brings so much to the space, and if I hear an amazing song, it gives me goosebumps. And for me, that's the connection, the awe, the real sheer brilliance of someone being able to use their body in such an incredible way to move others, to really move others. What does music mean to you?
Everything. Everything. I went to see Stevie Wonder at Hyde Park this year, and he walked out, spoke to the audience, and then he started with his song Love's in Need of Love Today. And the lyric, which goes, "Good morning or evening, friends. Here's your friendly announcer. I've got serious news to pass on to everybody. What I'm about to say could mean the world's disaster, could change your joy and laughter to tears and pain, because love's in need of love today. Don't delay. Send yours in right away." Oh, Amy, that was his first song. When he finished, I looked at the person next to me. She was crying. I was crying. Everyone was crying. Love's in need of love today. So that's, I suppose, the lyric with the beautiful music behind it. I think that the 3.5 minute pop song is the most beautiful art form because in that short space of time, it can change your state of being, how you see the world, how you feel about yourself. It can trigger memories of your first kiss, your first love. It can also evoke emotions of terrible sadness in just such a short space of time. I think I think it's one of the greatest gifts God gave us was the song, and I think it. I don't know where I'd be without it. I'm a bit sad, really, that the format that we listen to things on now with our phones and Spotify's and iTunes and everything doesn't have the same respect that it did when we were young and you put the record on or the cassette on and sort of dedicate the time to listen to a song or an album or whatever the case may be. It's sort of backgroundy noise now. But having said that, my children get as excited with the new Sabrina Carpenter or Taylor Swift, whatever the case may be, as excited as I did. So I think it's wonderful. Music means everything.
Yeah, I hear that. And one of my earliest guests on this podcast was Keith Harris, who has been for the best part of over 45, 47 years Stevie Wonder's manager. So it might be an episode you want to go back and listen to. It was yeah, it was fantastic. It was episode, my goodness, 32 I think it was. So yeah, it's beautiful. Episode 32, Follow Your Dreams. So my goodness, music is everything, and for all the reasons that you shared, thank you, Ed. I am loving this conversation, but we're going to have to wrap up. I'm going to put it in the show notes, but please direct the audience to where they could reach out and connect and just carry on the conversation with you should they choose to.
Brilliant. Okay, so the best way to get hold of me is through my website, which is edjordaninc.com. So edjordaninc.com. That's the best. Otherwise, I'm on LinkedIn, and yeah, that's the best place is LinkedIn or the website.
Perfect. Ed, thank you so much for sharing your focus on why. It's been a beautiful conversation. How would you like to close out today's episode?
One of your listeners might need to hear this. So if you can, find 5 minutes for yourself, quietly in a room without your phone in it, and think on these 3 things: breathe, believe, and be brave. First, I'd like you to breathe and notice what you feel, what you hear, what you think, what you remember, and where your attention is going. Start thinking about what you want. Then move on to believe and think about the values that Amy and I spoke about today and what you stand for. And then think about being brave and standing up and stepping into the unknown. I'll close with this. Walk in winning, because the winning is walking inside of you. Thank you, Amy.
That's a wrap for today, but the journey doesn't end here. Share your takeaways, leave a review, or post your insights. Your voice helps others discover the value of these stories. Want to dive deeper into purpose? Check the show notes for ways to work with me. Get a copy of my book or to sign up for Friday Focus, my weekly newsletter packed with clarity and inspiration. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why.